Something about the James Charles backlash felt different almost immediately. Not bigger, not louder, different. Because people who normally defend influencers didn't really rush to defend him this time. And that matters, because James has survived controversies that were objectively worse than a rude TikTok rant. Which raises the real question nobody's actually asking. Why did this become the moment people finally seemed exhausted with him? Because the internet is pretending this story is about one insensitive comment to a laid-off airline employee. But the reaction says something much deeper happened. This was an outrage over a mistake. This was the collapse of a rebrand people suddenly realized they never fully believed in to begin with. And the strange part is that James may have exposed that himself. The controversy started after a former Spirit Airlines employee posted content about struggling financially after layoffs. James responded publicly in a way that viewers immediately interpreted as arrogant and detached.
I just got a DM on here from a girl that said, "Good morning, James. I know you'll probably never see this, but if you could just take 1 minute to read it would really mean a lot to me. I'm really struggling right now because Spirit Airlines just filed for bankruptcy and I have lost my job. Here's a GoFundMe link. Any donations help." I'm sure they do, sweetheart. I'm sure they do. You know what else would help you? Getting another job. Yeah, try that. Because in the time that it took you to copy and paste the same fuck-ass message to myself, who you don't follow, by the way, and probably 100 other influencers and celebrities, you could have applied for 100 other jobs, but you didn't because you're a lazy piece of shit and you're entitled. And you think that influencers and celebrities should fund your life for you. Why would I ever help you? You're not a fan. You don't even follow me. You've never supported me. This is your first time DMing. And you think that I'm gonna send you money because you lost your job? Oh my God, welcome to the real world, sweetheart. People lose their jobs every fucking day, and you're white, pretty, and able-bodied. You're in a much better position than a lot of other people out here who are trying clearly much harder to make a better life for themselves. Why would I you? Aside from that, 17,000 people lost their jobs at Spirit Airlines. Why do you think you need the GoFundMe? I can at least 1% respect the mentality of closed mouths don't get fed, doesn't hurt to try. But honestly, it does hurt to try because now you pissed me off, okay? I'm not the one. Go find Mr. Reese. This is literally his entire shtick. I'm sure the next YouTube video is literally gonna be like, I rehired all 17,000 of the Spirit Airlines employees and it's gonna be the real life Hunger Games. The last one of them to leave the Spirit Airlines plane gets to be the CEO of the new company and gets a house and a car and $10 million that everybody else dies. Go find that video to compete in, baby. I'm not helping you. I'm not helping you. All you did was lost your job, okay? Welcome to the real world. I can at least understand if you were like, James, I'm a longtime fan. Here's a trillion years of DMs and my support for you. I love you. I'm suffering with a really rare genetic disease that there is no cure for, and I'm trying to raise money for myself and other people that have this. Maybe I would help. Maybe I would help because I love you and I appreciate you. This bitch, you lost your job? Oh. What are we gonna do? Nothing. I'm gonna do nothing. You know what you need to do? Go find a new one, girl. Put some effort into the workplace.
The criticism wasn't just that he sounded rude. It was that he sounded irritated by regular people having financial problems while being a millionaire influencer whose entire career depends on public support. That emotional disconnect hit instantly. But if this were almost any other creator, the backlash probably would have lasted 24 hours and disappeared. That's what makes this interesting. Because audiences didn't react like they were seeing new behavior. They reacted like they had finally received confirmation of behavior they already suspected existed underneath the polished version of James Charles that's been carefully rebuilt over the last few years. And that's where this stops being about drama and starts becoming about reputation psychology. For a long time, James's strategy after his earlier scandals was actually working. He stopped appearing constantly in creator conflicts. He focused more on makeup content, less chaos, less public feuds, fewer headline moments. The internet slowly got bored enough to normalize him again. Not fully forgive him, that's different, but normalize him. And online, normalization is incredibly powerful because eventually audiences stop emotionally revisiting old scandals unless something reminds them to. This incident reminded them. What really damaged him wasn't the original comment, it was the sequence that followed afterward. Because people started tracking the timeline, and suddenly the apology didn't feel emotional anymore. It felt procedural. First the rant goes up, then backlash escalates fast. Then the video disappears. Then reports start circulating about a private apology. Then James publicly apologizes. Then donations enter the conversation. Then he explains he was frustrated because people online treat him like a personal ATM.
Yesterday morning, I posted a video on this account talking about how a woman had lost her job at Spirit Airlines, and she sent me a message with a GoFundMe link asking me to donate. And the video was basically me yelling at the camera, being super upset and frustrated because this person had never followed me, never supported me before, and it was clear that she had basically copied and pasted this DM to every influencer and celebrity she possibly could. This video was stupid. It was rude, it was obnoxious, it was privileged, and most importantly, it was completely necessary. When I saw that DM, I absolutely had the choice to ignore it and say absolutely nothing at all and move on with my day, but instead, I couldn't even tell you why. Her message just triggered me, and I decided instead to make a video about it. And I bashed her, and it was obnoxious, and I shamed her for asking for help in a situation where she was clearly really struggling, and this could have been her absolute last resort. I have no idea what was going on in her life, and I should have never assumed that she was just copying and pasting this DM as an easy way out. I don't know. I just don't know. My intention behind making this video in the first place was I get a lot of messages like this every single day. And for me personally, it definitely sucks to receive messages from people that don't follow you and don't support you, treating you like a personal ATM or bank account. But what I'm sure sucks even fucking more is not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from and not being sure whether or not you're going to be able to put food on the table for yourself and your family. So it really doesn't matter what my intentions were behind making the video, because it came across as super privileged and like I was basically shaming anybody that's unemployed for not trying hard enough to get a job. And I feel awful because that wasn't my intention, and it really hurt a lot of people. But as somebody with a platform, it's my responsibility to humble myself and to never take what I have for granted. And when I made that video today, that is exactly what I did. I was speaking from a very privileged, obnoxious, ignorant standpoint, and for anybody that saw that video and was disappointed or upset with what I said, I am super sorry.
Individually, none of those actions seem catastrophic. Together, they created a pattern viewers interpreted as reputation management rather than accountability. And audiences today are incredibly sensitive to that distinction. Because influencer culture has accidentally trained viewers to recognize PR behavior in real time, people now instinctively look for who apologized first, who deleted what, who responded privately before publicly, who waited for backlash metrics, who's trying to redirect sympathy, who's reframing themselves as emotionally overwhelmed. The audience no longer watches apologies emotionally. They watch them like investigators. And James walked directly into that shift. The biggest turning point came when the former employee reportedly exposed and rejected the private apology publicly. That completely changed the emotional power dynamic of the story.
Did James Charles really send you that message? He did. He decided to message me on TikTok, and he wanted to privately apologize. I know another question on here is, do I accept his apology? So I'm just going to answer it right together. Hell no. I don't accept his apology, especially because he was very publicly with what he said, and then you thought it was okay to message.
Because now James wasn't controlling the redemption arc anymore. The audience was watching someone reject it in real time. That's devastating for influencers because modern reputation recovery depends heavily on closure. The audience needs a moment where they can collectively decide, okay, issue resolved. But this situation never got that moment. Instead, the rejection created a new interpretation that James only became compassionate after his image became threatened. And once audiences emotionally lock into that interpretation, every future action starts looking strategic instead of sincere. That's why old scandals started resurfacing almost instantly afterward. Commentary pages started reposting previous controversies. Threads about manipulation accusations came back. Older clips started circulating again.
In honor of May 10th coming up, which more on that date later, and the current 2025 scandal that James Charles is going through, I have gone through and chronicled all of James Charles' scandals. All of his major scandals. So, 2015, James Charles joins the Instagram posting photos of him doing makeup. End of 2015, joins YouTube, is on YouTube for a while, does a video with Zendaya, blah, blah, blah. February 2017, James Charles posts a very offensive tweet about Africa, causing him to be dropped by CoverGirl, which was a major deal because he was the first cover boy, and he had just been given this a few months ago, and he was kind of like showing that beauty influencers can join the mainstream, but also apparently they can't because they post offensive tweets. This will not be the only makeup brand to drop him. Next, in 2017, which did not get included on the board because it's not major, he did beef with Finn Wolfhard and the cast of It. Basically, he was tweeting from the movie theater saying that it was a boring movie. They were like, get off your fucking phone in the theater. that was it. He mostly recovered from both scandals because the internet has no attention span. All right, nothing for 2018 is on the board. However, I feel it's important to know that James Charles is starting to be disliked in other communities, not his community, but in other communities for being too egotistical, which more on that later. In 2018, he did tweet out saying that Netflix, instead of doing a makeup docuseries with Marlena Stells, should be doing one with him. Marlena Stells, if you don't know, is the founder of Makeup Geek and has been in the industry for 20 plus years. At this point, James Charles had been in the makeup industry for 4 years. So, no, they should be doing it on Marlena Stells. However, I don't believe the docuseries ever gets posted. Now, 2019, James Charles, I would say biggest scandal today happens. Bye, sister. May 10th. 2019, Tati Westbrook posts Bye Sisters. Now, it's important to me that everyone watching this video knows that Tati Westbrook did not post Bye Sisters, where she alleges that James Charles targets straight boys. She did not post this because she was disgusted with his behavior, because he was not doing the right time and place, James, but instead because James Charles decided to post a Sugar Bear hair ad on Instagram stories because he wanted tickets to weekend 2 of Coachella. That's why she posted it. Now, not James Charles. Jeffree Star at this time came out saying that James Charles is a danger and he doesn't allow him in his home anymore, leading to more credibility for Tati's claims. However, James Charles ends up posting a video a few days later where he posts a lot of receipts, and people kind of settle down and they're like, well, I don't really know. Now, one thing to note about Bye Sisters is that this scandal changed YouTube. You used to be able to see live YouTuber subscriber count. You can no longer do that because people are having watch parties for the mass unfollowing that James Charles had following Bye Sisters. He had just hit 10 million subscribers, and within hours of Bye Sisters being posted, he dropped below 10 million subscribers, and Tati Westbrook gained and was able to hit above 10 million subscribers. It was a huge scandal. Now, something else that happened in 2019 was the Morphe palette. Now, this kind of proves that even though Bye Sisters was a huge scandal that changed YouTube, it did not affect James Charles's reputation in the makeup community. The James Charles Morphe palette sold out almost immediately. It was a huge success. There were a few small scandals, like James Charles faking swatches. One of the shades was alleged that it caused eye stainings, and people claim Morphe was purposefully advertising the 39A Artistry palette to be bought instead of the James Charles palette, so people would have to buy 2 Morphe palettes. Also, in 2019, before Bye Sisters, James Charles was invited to the Met Gala, and he had a fugly-ass outfit. And it's just important to me that you know James Charles had an ugly Met Gala outfit. Now, 2020 June. Shane Dawson posts saying that James Charles, because his ego was so high, deserved a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building, leading to Dramageddon 3, which led to the downfall of both Jeffree Star and Tati Westbrook in 2020, which helped also revitalize James Charles' career, because people were like, oh, well, we don't trust Jeffree Star and Tati Westbrook and Shane Dawson anymore, and they were the leaders of Bye Sisters, so James Charles is fine. You'd think that would 2020 or 2019 Bye Sisters would be enough, but no. 2021, James Charles' most infamous scandal. A 16-year-old comes out saying that James Charles was allegedly sending inappropriate texts and photos. March 2021, there are more allegations come out from more boys. For some reason, on April 1st, James Charles decides to post an apology video where he does admit to having contact with some of the boys, however, denies that he knew that they were 16 years old. He does delete the video, so do take that into consideration. And on April 16th, the second makeup brand ever to drop James Charles does, with Morphe dropping James Charles, which is huge. His YouTube channel is also demonetized. However, over the next 4 years, James Charles really works at his reputation. He does a fantastic job of managing public perception around him, and he goes back to being liked by the public, especially on TikTok. May 2025, the Evan Johnson allegations. Kayla Malik, a TikToker and former friend of James Charles, comes out saying that James Charles is dating her legally horrible boyfriend, allegedly. After the ex-boyfriend allegedly did horrible things to Caleb, James Charles gave the ex-boyfriend a place to stay, even knowing what he did, and even though Caleb was supposed to be his friend. Now, obviously this is awful, and I hate this. But James Charles, honestly, with all these scandals, and all these notes I've had to take, should not have a career. I think the reason he does is because he is so good at managing public perception of him. And a lot of times, what I think people don't remember about cancellations is that in order for someone to be canceled, you have to get their target audience to not like them anymore. And sadly, that has never really happened. And so yeah, so that's all the scandals of James Charles up to 2025. I recommend, if you're interested in the 2021 allegations, checking out Smoky Glow. She has an evolution of James Charles video that is fantastic if you're looking for a long form video. And I honestly recommend watching Kayla's video on TikTok for the 2025 allegations. And for 2019, if you're really interested at what happened, type in Bi Sisters to fucking YouTube, and I swear you will find something. Because Bi Sisters is perhaps one of the biggest YouTube scandals to ever happen. And that's it.
Not because the public suddenly discovered new information, but because this incident changed the lens people were using to interpret him. That's the part creators underestimate constantly. Reputation isn't built on isolated incidents. It's built on narrative consistency. If audiences believe someone is fundamentally good, mistakes get interpreted generously. If audiences believe someone is fundamentally manipulative, even neutral actions begin looking calculated. And James may have crossed into the second category. What makes this especially dangerous is that the backlash wasn't fueled purely by morality. It was fueled by emotional fatigue. People are tired of influencer apology cycles, tired of PR language, tired of carefully managed vulnerability, tired of creators acting shocked when public perception shifts against them after years of controversy. And James became the perfect symbol for that exhaustion, because his career has basically existed in permanent negotiation with public forgiveness. That's why this backlash spread so aggressively across TikTok specifically. TikTok culture is deeply driven by pattern recognition. Users constantly connect behaviors, compare timelines, stitch contradictions together, and collectively build psychological profiles of creators. Once enough people decide someone fits a pattern, the algorithm amplifies that interpretation rapidly. So this stopped being, James made a rude comment, and became, maybe this is the personality people were always warning us about. That's a much harder allegation to recover from, because it attacks identity instead of behavior. And honestly, the most revealing part of this entire situation is that James didn't lose control because of evidence. He lost control because of perception sequencing. The audience saw the backlash before they saw the empathy. They saw the deletion before they saw accountability. They saw the damage control before they saw remorse. Online, timing creates meaning. And once viewers decided the apology was reactive instead of genuine, the rest of the narrative basically wrote itself. What happens next is the part that actually matters, because influencers can survive scandals. They survive leaked messages, offensive clips, public feuds, even cancellation campaigns. What they struggle to survive is audience exhaustion. Once viewers stop wanting to reinterpret your behavior positively, every controversy becomes cumulative instead of isolated. And that's why this situation feels different. Not because James Charles got canceled, but because this may have been the first time the internet collectively stopped giving him the benefit of the day.